Healthcare GTM is changing rapidly. AI is transforming how buyers discover, evaluate, and engage with vendors. But are healthcare organizations adapting fast enough? Welcome to Healthcare GTM Show. I am Subhashmita Nanda, and today we are joined by Jacob Zemon, Managing Director at WSI, to discuss how AI is reshaping healthcare sales and marketing. Jacob, welcome to the show, and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
So moving on to our very first question. So you have worked across consulting, healthcare, and now lead WSI, helping healthcare practices turn marketing into predictable growth. What inspired this journey and what challenges in healthcare marketing were you hoping to solve?
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed solving problems and seeing businesses grow. There are two common themes I've noticed throughout the different stages of my career, from consulting at Accenture to designing marketing blueprints at Merck, and now running my own agency. But if I had to narrow it down, I'd say the true driving force is seeing improvements in health and wellness for people. So that's what really inspired me to focus on the life sciences and healthcare route throughout my career. And this really has implications for healthcare marketing, because successful healthcare marketing will bring people like patients and doctors together to give them the best solutions and the best results for their health and wellness.
That's a great perspective. We are all here in all the healthcare team to take care and provide support. It's fascinating to see how healthcare marketing has evolved alongside technology over the years. So, healthcare organizations are rapidly adopting AI, but many are still figuring out how to integrate it into their go to market strategy. So, in your experience, what separates organizations that are successfully using AI growth from those that are still struggling?
Hmm. The thing is, AI is an amplifier. It's not the architect for growth. So AI does not create great marketing. It exposes whether you had a great strategy in the first place. So there's a responsible and effective way to use AI, but also isn't some magic bullet, and it can even cause issues for healthcare businesses. So first things first, companies should invest time in planning what their exact AI strategy is. Consider your teams, your tech stacks, compliance, business goals, and then pick the right AI tools to fit that strategy. One reason companies fail at implementing AI is because their employees are picking their own tools to be more efficient, but no one is really coordinating. Another place where some businesses are struggling with AI now is when they're using it to create marketing assets. But we're starting to feel some pushback from the consumers. Turns out a lot of people don't like it when social media posts or videos are clearly pure AI. The businesses that are going to succeed are the ones who understand how to balance AI and marketing, and how to use AI internally as well as to power their marketing assets.
I get it. And so it's interesting how you have talked about assets and how important it is in the consumer base at this point of time.
Mhm.
So considering that you also believe in standardization of AI, I believe
Mm.
so, uniformly
Yeah,
across the organization.
yeah, I would say within certain teams within an organization, standardization is pretty important. So you want to evaluate what the right tools are for which teams within your organization, and do some training for the teams so that they understand the tools, they understand the best ways to prompt the tools, or how to use them, or the right documentations to include or not include, and to always check and verify what you're getting from the results, and and how to put the different tools together. So it's a combination of implementing the right tools or creating the right tools, but also training your employees to use them in a standardized way.
Understood. Is there any particular tool that you have in mind which you can suggest to our users that you use more specifically for marketing per se?
Um, it really depends on the applications that you want to use. So there's a lot of automations or things like that you can do with ChatGPT or Claude now. Um, but then there's other AI solutions that I see um, work for different businesses, like using AI receptionists or scribes can be very helpful.
Mhm.
And even just understanding how to create marketing assets in a quicker, more efficient way, but also in a way that reflects your brand voice and brand vision. So if you are going to use these AI tools to create marketing assets, um, they shouldn't be what I would call like a regression towards the mean, right? Because that's how LLMs typically work. You don't want to just have an average brand message, right? Because that's what you'd get from a standard prompt. If you already use them responsibly to create marketing assets, you want to make sure that you put your personality and your brand voice and all these differentiators into the tools so that they can create things made quicker and more efficient for you, but still.
So, right. So yeah, moving on to our next question. So, AI is only as effective as the data behind it. How important is accurate, reliable, and up-to-date data in helping healthcare sales and marketing teams make better, like making in taking better decisions or building successful GTM strategies?
Yeah. I mean, so bad data doesn't just produce bad decisions, it gives you confidence in the wrong decisions.
Mhm.
Data accuracy, I would say, is the most important part of AI. If the LLMs don't have the right data to go on and humans don't check the results, there could be huge risks. That's why we're starting to see stories about lawyers being disbarred and Deloitte suffering financial consequences for using AI generated results that ended up being hallucinations. For healthcare sales and marketing teams in particular, the best way to deal with this is to build out their own GPTs based on their own internal data and documentation in a secure environment. And then, of course, still have that human in the loop. So start with the data that you trust, build the AI tools for your team, and have your leaders interpret those results into AI powered GTM strategies rather than just a 100% LLM go to market strategy.
Understood. And it's quite very insightful. That's what we also believe at Ampliz, that having credible data helps us take better decisions. So, so beyond improving our internal decision making, AI is also fundamentally changing how healthcare buyers evaluate vendors. So AI is changing how healthcare buyers research, evaluate, and engage with vendors, as I said before. And how do you see buyer behavior evolving? What do healthcare sales and marketing teams need to do differently to stay ahead?
Yeah, I think that that's a great practical question. So healthcare buyers don't just search in one place anymore. They're searching everywhere. Your brand has to show up everywhere. Everywhere that trust is built. So the new customer journey isn't a traditional marketing funnel anymore. It's not one step to the second and so on. It's kind of this web of searches, reviews, videos, AI answers, referrals. So if I were to give one piece of advice for marketing in the age of AI, it's this: create quality content. Unique, new, authoritative content will help your brand stand out on Google, on ChatGPT, Facebook, and so on. It ranks for traditional SEO and now GEO. It builds trust over time and over multiple touch points with your healthcare consumers as well. So this quality content should be focused and under key, what I call content pillars that align with your business. So that said, in the modern marketing landscape where LLMs are becoming an increasingly important step in the prospect's journey to buy, consumers are also becoming more skeptical of marketing. So building this trustworthy content is becoming really necessary. That consumer, skepticism is kind of growing as the AI tools are growing. So they want something authentic and real. So creating quality content, authentic, real content, fresh content. That is the main way to power your marketing today.
So, as you suggested, authenticity is important to be embraced all over the thing. Moving on to this, we will move towards our next question, which is about data privacy and trust. So, we have
Mm,
been seeing increasing adoption of HubSpot in the healthcare sector. Recently,
mm.
HubSpot announced that it would use customer data to train its AI models, but later reversed that decision following customer feedback. So, what are your thoughts on these developments, and how should healthcare organizations balance AI innovation with data privacy and customer trust?
Yeah, I think HubSpot ultimately made the right decision by listening to customer feedback and reversing course. But the lesson isn't that organizations should avoid using AI. It's that customers expect to understand how their data is being used and how to have meaningful control over it. In healthcare, especially, trust is one of the most valuable assets. And once it's damaged, it's increasingly difficult to rebuild. So
Mhm.
I don't believe that organizations should have to choose between AI or trust. The companies that will lead over the next few years are the ones that use AI transparently, obtain appropriate consents, protect sensitive data, and clearly demonstrate that AI is creating value for their customers rather than simply benefiting the business. The customers can see the value for themselves and understand what the data privacy is, they're more likely to agree to it, to consent to it. So AI may help you operate more efficiently, but trust is still what drives that long term growth. The most successful organizations will be using AI to strengthen relationships, not to undermine them.
So you believe transparency is something that is very important that companies should maintain with their customers, and that is what will lead into customer trust.
Yes, that's definitely one important area that leads into customer trust. Yeah.
Great. So moving on to our next, so these ideas become very even more meaningful when we see them into practice, as you said, and transparency is one among them. So moving on to our next questions, can you share a real world example where AI, quality data, and digital marketing came together to help a healthcare organization achieve measurable growth or solve significant business challenge?
Yeah, I can think of a couple. I like to start with a recognizable one. So a
Mhm,
great example recently is what happened at the Cleveland Clinic and what they've done with
mhm,
what's called these ambient AI scribes. So they
mhm,
combine high quality clinical data, AI, and thoughtfully planned workflows to reduce documentation time while improving the physician and patient interaction.
mhm,
And the patients like this too. So even the patients who weren't part of the study were asking like, "Hey, can I be a part of that?" Because it
mhm,
made things easier both on the physicians and the patients, which is what we love to see.
mhm,
And what's interesting about this is the technology itself wasn't even really what the story was about. The story was that having this reliable data, physician oversight, and a clear objective, and that's what made it effective. AI delivers great value, strategic system. So when it's planned out and designed in a very thoughtful way, not when it's just implemented because it's new. They tested a few different solutions there. But also at a smaller scale. I've seen the same principle work several times with smaller, like private healthcare practices that I work with. So these practices grow consistently. They're not just creating tons and tons of content, but they're using these solutions to have smoother CRM systems, stronger analytics, and yeah, uh, they're using a strategy that lets AI personalize communications and automate repetitive work. So the lesson is the same whether you're like a large organization, an enterprise level organization like the Cleveland Clinic, or you're a private practice that has like five providers, right? Quality data plus a strong strategy creates that sustainable growth.
That's a great example, and like how like AI backed right strategy and data can create tangible business outcomes. So before wrapping up and moving on to a final question, I
Sure.
just want to ask, like, where do you see the future? Like, do you see the future of healthcare GTM over the next 3 to 5 years? And what should healthcare organizations start doing today to stay ahead of that change?
Yeah. Yeah. Do want to be careful because 3 to 5 years does sound like a long time in terms of AI. So, um, that being said, the future, I'd say doesn't belong to organizations that are using the most AI. It
Mhm,
belongs to the ones that are combining AI with trust. So
mhm,
the 3 to 5 years is kind of a long time for AI technology, considering how rapidly it's evolving. So I don't want to try to predict exactly what those solutions will look like. But I am confident that the most successful healthcare businesses will be the ones that wisely apply AI in their businesses while having the experts lead the GTM strategy.
mhm,
So AI is not this tool that's going to, change everything and it's going to solve everything by itself. It's
mhm,
also not something that's scary that we should avoid, right? So the I'm confident that the businesses that are most effective will take a critical view of AI technologies as they develop and use them in a very wise and safe way. So that finding that balance and um, again being responsible about that balance and very strategic about what you use and what you don't use
Mhm.
is going to be the differentiator in the next 3 to 5 years.
That's very insightful. So precisely you suggested that the organizations that would be successful should imbibe both AI and but they should never forget about getting trust of their customers and consumers. It should be always in both ways, work in both
Mhm.
hands. So yeah, so Jacob, thank you very much for joining us and sharing with us your insights on the future of healthcare GTM in the AI era. If you would like to connect with Jacob and learn more about WSI, we would include the links in the description below. Thank you for tuning in the Healthcare GTM show. This is our fifth episode, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.